Welcome folks. In this video we are going to look at English paper 2 for the year 2013. Now we are going to begin with question 1 according to the arrangement of this paper, which is summary. So we know that under summary you are going to be given a passage that you are supposed to summarize. To summarize simply means to make it short. Now the first step that you are supposed to do is you need to first look at the question. The question will guide you when getting the points from the given passage. So now, in not more than 120 words, outline the effects of corruption on a country. So we just want the effects of corruption on a country. So that is our focus in this given passage. Right, so let's begin with paragraph 1. So we need to check if we have endpoint. So the first thing that you are supposed to do is you need to first you read through the passage the first time, then you consider getting the points in the second reading. So the first reading will be corruption, defined as the abuse of public power for personal ends, has always existed. During recent decades, however, it has grown both in terms of geographic extent and intensity. Needless to say, corruption and its effect can be seen from a multitude of viewpoints. Corruption should be approached from the point of view of the effects it has on development. It is intrinsically linked to underdevelopment, right? Then 2. As long as a person's normal income does not provide him with a decent living, the poor will always be, the door will always be open to bribes. It is therefore through development that we should be attempting to eradicate corruption, but we simply cannot wait for it to be stamped out through development. In any case, development is hardly a miracle cure. Italy, for instance, was precisely at the height of the country's development when corruption became the norm. Paragraph 3. If we analyze some of the effects that corruption has on the development, the first thing we notice is that it increases the cost of goods and services. The national economy ultimately suffers the consequences of an unjustified surcharge on the goods or services, with the difference being pocketed by some government officials or politician who has abused his power for his personal gain. The corrupt decision maker may well be tempted to accept a substandard quality of service which will make him personal profit or the greater. Thus, with a road building project, for example, complicity between government departments and contractors may result in corner cutting with regard to agreed standards of quality, so that the savings made may be shared out between the two parties. Then in paragraph 4, at their very worst, the disastrous effects of corruption mean that the conception of a project and ultimately its very choice are determined by corruption. A good example would be the purchase of technology which is wholly unsuited to the particular needs of a country, or the choice of a capital-intensive project more lucrative in terms of corruption rather than a labor-intensive one which would be nevertheless be far more beneficial to that nation's development. The absolute peak of perversion, however, is when the very choice of priorities and therefore of projects is determined by corruption. The situation in which the real development priorities of a country are neglected in favor of operations which generate the greatest personal gain for the decision makers. Corruption is both the cause and the consequence of underdevelopment. Then in the last paragraph, which is paragraph 5, in the final analysis, an economy undermined by corruption has the effect of discouraging potential foreign investors and public donors. Entrepreneurs have been known to withdraw from certain African countries which are nevertheless rich in resources because of the constraints imposed on them by corruption. As for public donors, they are increasingly reluctant to offer financial aid to those countries that manage their own resources poorly. Okay, so we have now idea. We can now go back to paragraph 1. So let's check if we have paragraph 1. So remember, what we want is the effects of corruption on the country. So paragraph 1 reads, corruption, defined as the abuse of public power for personal ends, has always existed. During recent decades, however, it has grown both in terms of geographic extent and intensity. Needless to say, corruption and its effect can be seen from a multitude of viewpoints. Corruption should be approached from the point of view of the effects it has on the development. So this is the first point. Corruption affects the development. It is intrinsically linked to underdevelopment. So this means that corruption can make the country to have underdevelopment where the development is retarded. So that is our first point. We move on to paragraph 2. As long as a person's normal income does not provide him with a decent living, the door will always be open to bribes. So this is like a cause of corruption, but we want the effect. It is therefore through development that we should be attempting to eradicate corruption. But we simply cannot wait for it to be stamped out through development. In any case, development is hardly a miracle cure. Italy, for instance, was precisely at the height of the country's development when corruption became the norm. So even here, this is a point, but it's connected to development. So this is an example. Then in paragraph 3, if you analyze some of the effects that corruption has on development, the first thing we notice is that it increases the cost of goods and services. So the second point is about the increment of cost of goods and services brought by corruption. The national economy ultimately suffers the consequences of an unjustified surcharge on the goods or services. So they are just explaining this point, with the difference being pocketed by some government officials or politician who has abused his power for his own personal gain. Then the corrupt decision maker may well be tempted to accept a substandard quality of service which will make his personal profit all the greater. So this is the point. It's another point that you need to pay attention for you to understand the point. So the effect that we can get from this point, the one that we have considered, is that the effect of corruption on this one is like someone who is in power, then he decides to, for example, there is a contract maybe of a building, let's say building a house or maybe a road or whatever. Then instead of giving that contract to people that are capable to do that, now because of corruption, you give to people that are incompetent, people that cannot do. So that's so because of that, we are expected to have low quality. So that is the point that you have. Like for you to have the picture, you can continue. Thus, with a road building project, for example, complicity between government departments and contractors may result in corner cutting with regards to agreed standards of quality. So that's the point. So this was just to explain. So we have about 3 points now. We go to paragraph 4. At their very worst, the disastrous effects of corruption mean that the conception of a project and ultimately its very choice are determined by corruption. A good example would be the purchase of technology. So this is also the point. So the conception of a project and ultimately its very choice are determined by corruption. So corruption will force you to make a choice, and instead of making the right choice, you'll be forced to make a bad choice because of corruption. For example, we are given would be the purchase of technology which is wholly unsuited to the particular needs of a country, or the choice of a capital-intensive project more lucrative in terms of corruption rather than a labor-intensive one which would nevertheless be far more beneficial to that nation's development. The absolute peak of perversion, however, is when the very choice of prioritizing and therefore of projects is determined by corruption. The situation in which the real development priorities of a country are neglected in favor of operations which generate the greatest personal gain for the decision makers. Corruption is both the cause and the consequence of underdevelopment. So this point is connected to underdevelopment. Let's check from paragraph 5. In the final analysis, an economy undermined by corruption has the effects of discouraging, so another point, discouraging potential foreign investors and public donors. So because of corruption, the donors, or maybe foreign investors, people from other countries, fear to invest in our country because of corruption, thinking that their money may go in vain. Okay, so we have this as our point. Now, entrepreneurs have been known to withdraw from certain African countries which are nevertheless rich in resources because of constraint imposed on them by corruption. As for public donors, they are increasingly reluctant to offer financial aid to those countries that manage their own resources. So now, after you are done collecting the points, and when writing the summary, so this summary is guided because it has been studied for you. So the summary has been studied for you. The effects of corruption on a country are, so now you start putting in the points that you're writing. Now here I'm going to write some do's. So the do's, first let's begin with the don'ts. So the first one, don't add your own opinion. So even if you have some ideas of how corruption can affect the country, please do not add that one. Then don't use figures in terms of numbers whenever, if you are given a composition like this one, and if you are given maybe figures like numbers 2,000, 2 million, please avoid. Then don't give examples. So under the summary, you are not supposed to give examples because your task is to make it short. So whenever you give an example, you are making it long by, you want to like expand. So the key about summaries, you are acting as a reporter. You are getting somebody's information, then you want to deliver it to someone, but without changing the meaning and also without adding your own point. Then apart from this one, then do not use exact words or phrases, or we can say sentences from the given. So after you identify the points, when writing now your final answer, make sure you paraphrase, use your own English. So I would like to also hear from you guys. You can comment in the comment section below if there are some points that maybe I didn't say. So this is what we can share. Then key point is write the points in paragraphs, use your own terms, and stick to the number of words required. Right, we move on to question 2. So under question 2 is about comprehension, and comprehension is about understanding. Now there is no best key that we can share about comprehension. Like I always say, this is all about understanding. So your level of understanding English will determine the comprehension given. So let's look at this one. So read the following passage carefully and then answer the questions that follow. Education system in Zambia. So it's all about education system in Zambia. Paragraph 1. The education policy in Zambia has gone through a number of phases over the years, and the policy governing school fees has mimicked the swing of a pendulum. Right. Then in the early 1960s, education was based on the premise of free education. In 1996, with the passing of the Education Act, fees were introduced in the form of both user fees, so we have user fees, and Parent Teachers Association PTA fees. These fees were moderate and considered affordable at all levels. In the mid-1990s, as Zambia entered a period of liberalization, cost sharing became the official education policy. Parents began paying the major share of spending in the education sector, and enrollment levels declined mainly as a result of prohibitive fees. So here, because of the fees, the enrollment number of children began to decline. So that's what we are getting from here. Maybe we might need this as we go further. Then it was because of pressure from the international community, primarily through the International Monetary Fund, IMF, that Zambia gradually shifted the burden of paying for education from the government to Zambian households. During the late 90s, a number of community schools were born to absorb pupils unable to access government schools, especially the vulnerable. In 1998, approximately 200 community schools provided education to an estimated 25,000 children, and this number had grown to over 3,000 schools by 2004, catering for an estimated 228,000 pupils in grades 1 to 9, right? Okay. Paragraph 2. Just recently, the pendulum began to swing back again as the Zambian government introduced free primary education for grades 1 to 7 beginning the 2000 school year. This dramatic change in policy resulted from a combination of international and local pressure from organizations guided by commitment to human rights, such as the United Nations, the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, and the Oxfam Zambia. So we are looking at some organizations that force the government to introduce the free education for primary. Okay. Then education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. Right. Then paragraph 3. In the year 2000, Zambia signed the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, which call for the realization of universal primary education by the year 2015. So this is very important. First, let me underline. So as you are reading your paragraph, whatever that you consider very important, underline it. Maybe you might need it later. According to the latest progress report from the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, it is likely that Zambia will meet this target, and national support of the goal is good. UNDP 205. Zambia also participated in the World Education Forum in 2000, agreeing to the realization of universal primary education as part of the Education for All action plan. So this might be of help as we go on. The guidelines concerning the administration of free primary education in Zambia, as prepared by the Ministry of Education, prohibit any pupil from being turned away from a government school on account of not being able to pay school fees or not having a school uniform. So to prohibit, it means like to stop something, to prevent. So prohibit from being turned away from government schools only, account of not being able to pay school fees, or right. Okay, so let's check the last paragraph. A recent background paper commissioned by the Education for Global Monitoring reports lists Zambia is one of 16 countries out of 92 World Bank client countries that administers no fees for primary school. However, the concern remains that this free education exists only on a paper and in reality remains unaffordable to poorer households. All right. We now write the answers. So for the first question, question 1, according to paragraph 1, the policy governing school fees, A, so change due to the influence of the IMF has been based on the concept of free education. Then it has not been stable over the years, suggests that cost sharing became a burden to many households. So according to paragraph 1, the policy governing school fees. So let's go to paragraph 1. So in paragraph 1, we are told the education policy in Zambia has gone through a number of phases over the years, and the policy governing school fees has mimicked the swing of a pendulum. In the early 1960s, education was based on the premise of free education. In 1966, with the passing of the Education Act, fees were introduced. Okay, so let's go there. So we now have the answer. So the policy governing schools change due to the influence has been based on the concept of free education. So this is our answer. Then in paragraph 1, the expression prohibit fees is used to show. So prohibit fees is used to show A, how expensive it became for parents to pay for their children, how high the fees became in the 1990s, that pupils who did not pay school fees were not allowed in school, the effects of fees on education. So prohibit fees, we are looking at the fees becomes expensive. Let's go back, maybe we add more light so that we add. So let's look at this point. Parents began paying the major share of spending in the education sector, and enrollment levels declined as a result of prohibitive fees. So since the enrollment declined, it means that some parents failed to pay. So we'll say A, how expensive it became for parents to pay for their children. Then we move on to question 3. Why is the change concerning school fees regarded as dramatic? So let's go where there is dramatic. Okay, so just recently the pendulum began to swing back again as the Zambian government introduced free primary education for grades 1 to 7 beginning the 2000 school year. This dramatic change in the policy resulted from the combination of the international and local pressure from the organization. So we are saying this change was because of some organization came in. So for A, it took international and local organization to pressure the government to change. B, it was positive change. It was interest into our free education. So the answer is A, it took international and local organizations to pressure government to change. Question 4, according to the passage, in the early 1960s, fees became high due to the passing of the Education Act. Fees were relatively low and parents could afford. Fees were very low and many parents could afford. No fees were allowed. So let's go back. We see we have been given some periods that we can use. Okay, so the first, we are taught in the early 1960s, education was based on the premise of free education. So at this point, it was free education. Then 1966, then the introduction of school fees were done. So in 1960, it was, so we say no fees were paid toward education because of free education, right? 5, the main reason why community schools were introduced was to cater for vulnerable children who cannot access government schools, B, help increase pupils, help the vulnerable children access school. So the answer is a cater for vulnerable children who cannot access government schools, I mean. Then 6, the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, advocate achievement of universal primary school by 2015, aim at providing universal primary education. Goals, so here the answer should be A. So to advocate, it means to speak in support of someone. So this one worked as a support. Then number 7, which statement is true according to the passage? Zambia will meet the target of providing universal primary education by 2015. By law, no pupil should be turned away from the primary school for not being able to pay school fees or not have any. So this is true. They have said this point, I do remember. So we've seen this point here. So prohibit, so we'll start from where? From here. So the guidelines concerning the administration of free primary education in Zambia, as prepared by the Ministry of Education, prohibit any pupil from being turned away from. Okay, so that is the answer. Number 8, from the passage, write the one sentence which indicates that in fact education in Zambia is not free. Okay, so there is this article there. So therefore they have specified. It's not any point. This is specified. Okay, so since it's specified, then we'll look at some sentences that I underlined. Let's begin with paragraph 4. A recent background paper commissioned by the Education for All Global Monitoring reports lists Zambia as one of 16 countries out of 92 World Bank client countries that administers no fees for primary school. However, concern remains that this free education exists only on paper and in reality remains unaffordable to poorer households. So this is a point where we are getting that school fees is just on paper. In reality, people are still paying. That this is just on a paper form. So we'll say, so what is the point saying? So we'll say concerns, okay, so we'll say that free education exists only on a paper, but in reality, it is not. Okay, then we'll move on to question 9. Find words from those underlined in the passage which are synonyms. So synonyms, words that means the same or have the nearly the same meaning as the following words or phrases. Spell the words correctly. So the first one, we have providing, to copy, closely, basics, within reasonable limits. So let's focus on those that were underlined. So the first one is mimicked. So to mimic means to copy or to imitate. Moderate, so you can moderate, you can make some changes. Affordable, everyone can manage. Prohibitive, then we have vulnerable, catering, access. What else we have here? We have fundamentals. So the best way to answer these questions, in case you meet a word that you maybe see it for the first time, you need to look at the whole sentence. So the whole sentence will guide you. Let me just get rid of this. So we have dramatic. Okay, so let's go back. So providing, which one can mean same as providing. Let me first get rid of this. So begin the first mimic, no premise, no moderate, affordable, prohibitive, vulnerable, access, kata, fundamental, prohibitive. So if you look at this sentence, reports list of Zambia as one of the 16 countries out of 92 words that administers, that provides. So say that provided, no fees for primary. So we'll say administers. Then to copy closely is mimicked, basics, fundamentals, with reasonable limits, affordable. With reasonable limits, affordable. Let's just go with the moderate. Then for question 10, it's the opposite now. From the words underlined in the passage, find antonyms, opposite meaning of the following words or phrases. Spell the words correctly, one word only. So not at risk or not helpless. So since we are looking for the opposite, we want some like helpless, so it's vulnerable here. So someone who is vulnerable is helpless. No admission, so we want admission. So let's go, we want admission. So let's look at the catering here. So in 1998, approximately 200 community schools provided education to an estimated 25,000 children, and this number had grown to over 3,000 schools by 2000. Catering for estimated, so catering is opposite to that. To cater simply means to admit. So to provide admission, so we say here, we say catering. Then prohibitive is, so the opposite to this is allow, which is access. Not remarkable or not spectacular. So we want something that is remarkable or spectacular. Okay, so which one can we go for? Which one? So education was based on the, so not remarkable or spectacular. So want something that is remarkable. Want something that is remarkable. So we'll go with the affordable. Okay, so we now move on to question section 1. Transformation 10 marks. In each of the following items, sentence A is incomplete, but sentence B is complete. Complete sentence B each time, making it as similar as possible in meaning to sentence A. Make sentence B one sentence, never two. Do not make any changes to the printed parts of sentence B. Example, he is very lazy, he cannot pass the examination. He is so lazy that he cannot pass the examination. So we have question. Now, under transformation is not commonly known as the rewriting. There are maybe 2 or 3 ways in which you can write one question. So maybe if you have a different answer, as long as if the meaning is maintained, that's still okay. Question 1. Pupils should not be allowed free access to the staff room on any account. So here, then you begin on, end with staff room. So we'll say on an account should pupils be allowed free access to the staff room. So on an account should pupils be allowed free access to the staff room. Then question 2. He doesn't understand and he doesn't sympathize with anyone. So he neither understand, so this is negative, he neither understand, so neither goes with no sympathize with anyone. If you have some answers, you can share with me. Then question 3a. It is unfortunate that man is naturally selfish and possessive. Begin man, comma. So begin man, comma. So how can we write this one? So change unfortunate into unfortunately. So man, comma. Unfortunately is naturally selfish and possessive. Okay, we move on to question 4. Question 4a. The lamp was lit at 18 hours for stop. It burned until midnight. Begin lit. So say lit at 18 hours. Then comma. Then we'll say the lamp burnt until midnight. So one of the key that can assist you with the rewrites is that you need to be going through of these examples a lot, then you'll be able to get the concept. So lit at 18 hours, comma, the lamp burnt until midnight. Question 5. You must do it again. You have, so introduced to way, you have to do it again. Then both Peter and Johnny are intelligent. So this is a positive sentence. Now remember, we need to use neither, but the sentence should remain positive. So neither is negative. We need to use another negative words. We introduce mathematics. Negative times negative is positive. So neither Peter, so say neither Peter nor John Whenever you use neither, it becomes singular. So this one, instead of say are, we'll say is. So neither Peter nor Johnny is dull. So we use dull. So which means that among these two, no one is dull. They are all intelligent. Then we have question 7a. Mr. Chama said, "Son, wake up early tomorrow morning." Then Mr. Chanda reminded, so this is a Mr., so reminded his son to wake up early. To wake up early. So the tomorrow will change to the following morning. So the following morning. Or the following day or the next day. Number 8. The venue for the party has been arranged by the girls. Okay. Then the girls have arranged the venue for the party. So the girls have arranged the venue for the party. Then number 9. No one believes Francis because he always tells lies. So here they have changed because he is at the beginning of the sentence. What are we supposed to do? We just copy the whole sentence. So because he always tells lies. Now whenever the sentence begins with because, we need a comma. So you put comma, then no one believes Francis. Or if you want, we can say because Francis tells lies, comma, no one believes him. Then number 10, you are coming with us, add the question tag. So whenever the statement is positive, then the question tag becomes a negative. So this becomes "and." So say "and you." Okay, so this is what we can share. Then we go to the last part. In each of the following sentences, 3 words have been put in brackets. For each sentence, choose the best word and write it on the question paper in the space provided. Do not underline your answer. Spell the word correctly. Example, I will dash a poem by Shakespeare. Then we have cite for see. This is like cite for to see. Then this is cite like to recite something, to say what has been said. Then this is the cite like for a place. Alright, so let's begin with our first question. So these are like we are looking at the correct spellings. So these are the spellings that we usually look at under grade 12 level. So they are different from the spellings that you did maybe at primary level, where you are given some wrong words and we are given one. Now for this one, you may be given the words that exist, but we want the one that satisfies the sentence. So the first one, A, the children dash very excited. So the children is plural. So we want the plural form, so which is where. So the answer is this one. Then this is for a place. This is for like putting on something. Okay, number 2, the teacher discussed the matter. So we want further, the one that means in detailed. So it's this one. So these are feathers, like the bird's feathers. Then this is the feather, like from the word far. This has to do with the distance. Then number 3, all the doctor's efforts to resuscitate her was in, so we want the vein, which means it was useless, it was no use. So this has to do with a machine like a wind vane. Then this is a blood vessel. So the answer is this one. And make sure your studies shouldn't go in vain. Number 4, this is the man. So we want to use the us for ownership. So this is the man. The ownership for us is this one. Us, the son has drowned. This is not the us, it's the short form of who is. Then we know what whom is, like a question, whom are you talking to? Number 5, the girls were asking dash it would rain or not. So the weather is this one that we are looking for. The first one doesn't exist. Then in the last one is the weather for a condition, like right. Number 6, Kafla and Shansa ate dash food in the park. So these are 2. So it's plural also. So want there for plural is this one. This is not there, it's they. So like they are coming. Then this one is like ownership. They ate their food. Then this is there for a place. Right, number 7, the young teacher was dash promoted to the post of deputy head teacher. So we have later like sometimes from now. So here we have sometimes from now. Then this is later, which means the second one. So second one. Then this is later, like a letter writings composition or just a letter. So the answer is the first one. So it means the young teacher was sometimes promoted to the post of deputy head teacher. Number 8, Muflo's dash shop has empty shelves. So we want the grocery. So it's this one. So this is the right one. Number 9, Mwangala was dash wrong. So we want the definitely, like completely. So the answer is this one. So the definitely wrong. Then the Banguela rail was closed because of the guerrilla. So this is the guerrilla. Guerrilla is something like a group of fighters. So since we have the warfare, so it's not, they are not talking about the gorilla for the animal, because there is not even an actual spelling for gorilla here. For gorilla, it's G-O. So it's G-O, I mean single R, then double A. We don't have this spelling, so that's not what they are looking for. Then number 11, the teacher is a noble, teaching, is a noble profession. So the correct profession is 1F double S. Number 12, children are right now playing behind that tractor, which is, so one stationary with something that is not moving. So it's this one, the one with A. And these two words are so confusing. So how can you differentiate this? So what you can use, maybe let's do this. One has to do with the station, like the paper, stuff like that. So if you look at the word for paper, so the last letter is E, then this one is also E. This can help you to differentiate. So if you can master, whenever you see E has to do with the stationary equipments, then for A is not moving. Okay, so we move on to number 13. She dashed lemons to apples. So preferred. So the correct preferred is this one. 1F, sorry, then double R. Then our mango tree has, so we want to find the past participle of bear, so it's this one, born. Now this word can be used interchangeably. It can be used if you look at like carried by an airborne disease. It can also be used here. We cannot use this one. No, this one has to do with like giving birth, for example, human beings. Then for this one, a borehole, like a hole. Number 15. After singing at the concert the whole night, Muawa's voice sounded a bit, so we want like a rough. So this is the horse, like a horse pipe. So the answer is this one, because the other spelling is for the horse animal. Number 6, some Zambian singers are indeed skillful. So the correct spelling for skillful is 1L. So skillful. Then Cyprian dashed the baby on a red mat. Okay, so we want lady. So to lay, it means to put something on a flat surface gently. Number 18, he was accused of stealing, but he dashed this. So the 3 ways that we are given, they all simply means not to accept something, but they have where they are used. So the first one is the answer. Denied, you deny an accusation. For example, if someone has told you you stole this and you don't accept that, so you've denied. Then to refuse means not to accept an offer. Let's say if someone is giving you money, then you don't accept money, you've refused. Then to reject is also not to accept. For example, you reject a proposal. Then number 19, a minister in charge of the warfare is this one. So warfare, we are looking at the rights or part of somebody, in our case vulnerable. Then number 20, building the University of Zambia. So the answer is because there is no past tense, there is no like costed. So this is what we can share for this video. Thanks for watching.